Hey everyone. So once again, more evidence is coming to light in regards to this whole pretense of bringing about full-on socialism to Canada or in any particular geographical landmass or country. Yeah, it's not going to work, folks. You can't create this goddamn utopian environment or scenario where you can just pay people, like force the productive members of society, right? Because money has to be produced. It can't just all be printed, right? The fiscal stimulus, central banks can't actually generate and create a genuine economy. They can forcefully redistribute, they can confiscate, they can steal, they can manipulate the economy, but they cannot create an actual economy as much as they wish and hope or pretend that they can. No. Truth of the matter is people have to be productive, right? So if you're going to compensate someone economically, they have to at least provide some value, some service or some product, something where they're rewarded for such, right? But to just hand out people money for no actual economic venture or initiative, well, every time this experiment has been tried, it's been proven every time without any exceptions to be an absolute detriment to the proper incentives to individuals and the breakdown of the economic aspects of any particular society. This in reference to a headline article out of Financial Post. What happens when you offer basic income for not working? People stop working. Well, can you imagine that? That should be a statement that is so understood as just basic common sense that everyone would read this article and be like, well, no shit, Sherlock. But apparently, the fact that you have to put out articles like this, and the fact that the governments, like look at Trudeau and Ontario, like Kathleen Wynne and her bunch, they're trying this shit. They're going to keep trying these social experiments, these economic experiments, even though they know that the evidence has been in and the evidence has been piling up time and time again that, socialism is not the proper way to incentivize people, neither socially or economically. Charles Lemam and Hugh McIntyre, a basic income would weaken the incentives to work for lower income Canadians and those not strongly tied to the labor force. Almost 50 years ago, a Canadian Senate report declared that a basic income is an idea whose time has come. Ever since, the idea has resurfaced every so often with support that spans the political spectrum. A recent Parliamentary Budget Office report reinvigorated the debate by estimating the cost of a particular version of a basic income program. Proponents, including National Post columnist Andrew Coyne, go so far as to claim a basic income will end poverty. That is an oversimplification, and in our view, an unconditional basic income is a bad idea whose time should never come. In theory, a basic income would replace the existing web of income support programs, welfare, the GST tax credit, old age security, employment insurance, etc., with a single simple program that provides a cash transfer to Canadians. The PBO's version is based on a pilot program currently taking place in Ontario and will provide a maximum unconditional cash transfer of $16,989 for single Canadians. Couples would receive $24,027. There are several reasons why this is a bad idea. Yeah, no shit. A basic income would weaken the incentives to work for lower income Canadians and people not strongly tied to the labor force, i.e. youth and secondary income spouses, in two important ways. First, the transfer does not have a work requirement, even for able-bodied recipients, which raises serious concerns about the potential to encourage dependency on government and discourage people from improving their situation through gainful employment. Second, because additional income earned triggers a reduction in the transfer amount, a basic income will discourage additional work effort or the willingness to report additional income. In the PBO's version, $1 of extra income results in a 50-cent reduction in the transfer. The total effective tax rate on employment income, 50% from the basic income clawback, plus personal income and payroll tax rates, and potentially other reduction rates in government income supported programs would be significant. Yeah, not much of incentive there, is there? Indeed, past experiments in Canada and the United States in the 1960s and 70s with various designs of basic income showed that recipients, especially married women, responded by reducing the hours they worked. More broadly, however, proponents of an unconditional basic income ignore the lessons from Canada's welfare reforms in the mid-1990s and early 2000s, when stronger work requirements and higher eligibility rules helped reduce dependency. Oh, you mean just like when you're raising kids, if you teach them to actually, learn to be self-reliant, that they will be less reliant on you to provide for them? It makes sense, right? So, of course, that expands out into the general society at large. Once again, folks, pretty simple concepts that we should all know instinctively and understand properly. In 1994, about 1 in 8 Canadians, 12.2%, were on social assistance, and welfare benefits reached levels comparable to what a full-time minimum wage job would pay. Partly in response to this growing crisis in dependency, governments across Canada reformed their welfare systems. Reforms varied by province, ranging from tighter eligibility rules, work-related requirements such as job searches, and reduced cash transfers. These reforms helped dramatically reduce the share of the population on welfare, which fell by almost half from 12.2% in 1994 to 6.3% in 2012. The U.S., with a similar set of reforms, also experienced a marked decline in dependency. If income were to be unconditionally provided, as prescribed by many basic income models, irrespective of working or even searching for work, we shouldn't be surprised if, once again, fewer Canadians end up in the workforce. Finally, claims about an unconditional basic income solving poverty oversimplify what's often a much more complex problem. First, it's important to recognize the difference between transitory poverty, which almost all Canadians experience at one time or another, for instance when they're in university or college, versus long-lasting or permanent poverty, which is much more worrying. The root causes of long-lasting poverty go beyond a simple lack of income. Issues such as addiction to drugs or alcohol, mental health challenges, severe physical disabilities, and not completing high school increase the risk of chronic poverty. Crucially, a cash transfer with no restrictions may either exacerbate the problem or not address why someone is stuck in poverty in the first place. Proponents from across the political spectrum promote the idea of an unconditional basic income, but clearly the drawbacks are significant and should give us all pause. Well, I agree, 100%, of course. I would never, anyone out there, like I say, in your own personal, anecdotal, or subjective experience, if you just give everyone freebies all the time, whether it's your children or a neighbor or your grandkids or something, have you really helped them out? Maybe like that initial aspect of it where they need something, they want something, and you give it to them, you provide it to them. You might have helped them out in that small area, in that small regard, but yourself, you have to understand yourself that you haven't actually genuinely helped them out as far as learning how to be self-reliant or self-sufficient or independent. You're just creating another area, another class, another segment of society that's going to become completely reliant on others or handouts given to them or provided to them. Because if you can get something for free, where's the incentive for you to go out and work for it if you can get it for free? This is just such basic common sense stuff, and you shouldn't have to point this out on a regular basis through these articles. But this is the weird fucking world we live in, that you do have to point this stuff out on a regular, ongoing basis. That tells you that there's a massive amount of failure as far as our economic and our education system in this country. When you have to constantly keep pointing this stuff out, this basic, seemingly should be easily understood information, well, apparently it's not. So I guess we just have to accept the fact that this is the reality. This is the world that we currently live in, and we got to do our best to try to unwind not just the mysticism, but the misinformation and the propaganda that's been spewed by those in the ruling class or the connected class or the parasitical classes that seemingly just want to keep using forced income or wealth redistribution or socialism as a means to an end, and hope that no one will push back enough to the point where they can't make that a reality. They can't bring that to fruition. I'll post a link to this article in the description of the video below. But yeah, once again, folks, I hate to say getting back to basics because I don't like going backwards. I like to go forward. I don't like to regress things. I like to progress. You know, that's actually one area that I do share in common with some of those people that I would identify on the political left. Although the difference, the discrepancy, the problem I have is how we get from here to there and how you implement it, how you create the proper incentives going forward. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.